Hi, I'm Congressman Scott Perry. At the beginning of each week that Congress is in session, I send out a brief update about the bills the House of Representatives likely will consider. The bills this week are as follow, and there are many. H.R. 4572, the Stella Reauthorization Act, which will ensure that 1.5 million subscribers in hard-to-reach areas continue to receive vital broadcast programming. H.R. 4450, the Travel Promotion, Enhancement, and Modernization Act of 2014, which would strengthen the United States' competitiveness in the global travel and tourism markets by reauthorizing Brand USA, a public-private partnership designed to encourage tourism to the United States. H.R. 4812, the Honor Flight Act, which is a bill that would direct the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA, to establish a process for providing expedited and dignified passenger screening services for veterans traveling on an honor flight to visit war memorials built and dedicated to honor their service. H.R. 4802, the Geraldo Hernandez Airport Security Act of 2014, which aims to secure that domestic airports are properly prepared and equipped to respond to security incidents and terrorist attacks. In addition, the bill would require TSA to report to Congress on the overall level of preparedness at airports nationwide, identify best practices that exist across airports, and share them with other airport operators. H.R. 4803, the TSA Office of Inspection Accountability Act of 2014, which requires a TSA to end the practice of paying higher wages to employees for skills they don't use. H.R. 1022, the Securing Energy Critical Elements and American Jobs Act of 2014, which will help the United States develop the technical expertise and production capabilities to assure a long-term, secure, and sustainable supply of energy critical elements. H.R. 5035, which would authorize the National Institute of Standards and Technology. H.R. 5120, the Department of Energy Laboratory Modernization and Technology Transfer Act of 2014, which would bring the United States national lab system into the 21st century and promote the easy transfer of federal research into the hands of the private sector, improving the public-private partnerships that are essential to bringing innovative ideas to the marketplace. H.R. 2430, the Hinchcliffe Stadium Heritage Act, which would make Patterson's Hinchcliffe Stadium a part of the Patterson-Great Falls National Historic Park. H.R. 3802, which extends the legislative authority of the Adams Memorial Foundation to establish a commemorative work in honor of former President John Adams and his legacy. H.R. 3716, the Pyramid Lake Powhatan Tribe Fish Springs Ranch Settlement Act, which would transfer approximately 30,669 acres of BLM land in Washoe County to be held in trust to expand the reservation boundary to fully incorporate the watershed of Pyramid Lake in Nevada. H.R. 4508, which amends the East Bench Irrigation District Water Contract Extension Act to permit the Secretary of the Interior to extend the contract for certain water services. H.R. 4562, which authorizes early repayment of obligations to the Bureau of Reclamation within the North Point Irrigation District in the state of Nebraska. H.R. 4411, the Hezbollah International Financing Prevention Act of 2014, which targets the terrorist organization's foreign assets with sanctions while also going after its narcotics trafficking ring and its media arm, Al-Manar. H.R. 4983, the Strengthening Transparency in Higher Education Act, which would improve consumer information to provide a more complete picture of all student populations, streamline existing transparency efforts at the federal level to reduce confusion for students, and require better coordination by federal agencies to avoid duplication and confusion. H.R. 5134, the NACIQI, an advisory committee for student financial assistance, which would extend the National Advisory Committee on Institutional Quality and Integrity and the Advisory Committee on Student Financial Assistance for 1 year. H.R. 5111, which amends the Missing Children's Assistance Act by striking the term child prostitution and inserting the term child sex trafficking. H.R. 5081, the Strengthening Child Welfare Response to Trafficking Act of 2014. This legislation would provide that and ensure that child welfare agencies have systems in place to properly identify, document, and serve child victims of trafficking. H.R. 5076, the Enhancing Services for Runaway and Homeless Victims of Youth Trafficking Act of 2014, which will improve support provided specifically to runaway and homeless youth who are victims of sex trafficking. H.R. 4980, the Preventing Sex Trafficking and Strengthening Families Act, which provisions that will encourage states to reduce the incidence of sex trafficking among youth in foster care, empower and promote normalcy for foster youth, quickly move more children from foster care into adoptive homes or the homes of relatives, and increase the amount of child support provided to families in which one parent is outside of the U.S. H.R. 5135, the Human Trafficking Prevention, Intervention, and Recovery Act of 2014. The legislation works to better prevent and intervene when trafficking or attempted trafficking occurs while also opening up additional resources for survivors who are working to recover. H.R. 5116, which directs the Secretary of Homeland Security to train Department of Homeland Security personnel on how to effectively deter, detect, disrupt, and prevent human trafficking during the course of their primary roles and responsibilities. H.R. 4449, which amends the Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000 to expand the training for federal government personnel related to human trafficking. H.R. 2283, the Human Trafficking Prioritization Act, which amends the Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000 to change the status of the Office to Monitor and Combat Trafficking to that of the Bureau to Combat Trafficking in Persons, which shall be headed by an Assistant Secretary of State. H.R. 3136, the Advancing Competency-Based Education Demonstration Project Act of 2013. The bill would increase access and affordability in higher education by allowing institutions the flexibility to provide a degree that is based on students' knowledge and skills instead of seat time. H.R. 4984, the Empowering Students Through Enhanced Counseling Act, which will promote financial literacy through enhanced counseling for all recipients of federal financial aid. H.R. 4935, the Child Tax Credit Improvement Act of 2014. The legislation indexes the credit and the limitations to inflation to help parents keep more of their hard-earned money to use for the mounting expenses of parenting. And finally, H.R. 3393, the Student and Family Tax Simplification Act. The legislation is designed to make it easier and simpler for families to afford the cost of higher education by consolidating 4 separate tax provisions into one improved and more robust education tax benefit. The House may possibly consider House Continuing Resolution 105, which would direct the President, pursuant to Section 5C of the War Powers Resolution, to remove the United States Armed Forces other than armed forces required to protect United States diplomatic facilities and personnel from Iraq. As always, if you have any questions or if I may be of any assistance to you or your family in any way, please contact me at perry.house.gov. That's perry.house.gov. Again, I'm Scott Perry, and I hope you have a fantastic week.